The ice tray cracked louder than expected when I yanked it from the freezer. Maybe because my hand was shaking. Maybe because, somewhere deep down, I already knew something was off. I wasn't even supposed to be inside. Someone had just yelled, "We're out of ice," and I offered to grab more before anyone else could speak. It was my chance to breathe. The grill smoke had started sticking to my skin, and the fake smiles around me were clinging even tighter. I crossed the kitchen with a bag half full when I heard it. A laugh. Not mine. Not hers, but his. I paused mid-step. There shouldn't have been anyone inside. Everyone was outside. I'd seen them. I'd literally handed her a plate of ribs not 5 minutes ago. Then came another laugh. That one was hers, but not the usual short laugh she gives during awkward conversations. This one was slow, familiar in a way I hadn't heard in months, maybe years. Then a thump, a soft thud against something. Wall, table. My shoes stayed rooted to the tile like they knew better, but my body didn't listen. I moved toward the hallway like I was floating, like I wasn't in charge anymore. The guest room door was cracked. Not enough to see anything, just enough to suggest I wasn't supposed to. I stood there, silent. Then I heard it. Her voice whispering something low and syrupy. I couldn't catch the words, but the tone, that was enough. Then I heard his voice. It wasn't someone from her family. Not her stepbrother, not her dad, not her cousin. It was Grant. And that's when my stomach dropped. Grant wasn't invited. Grant wasn't even supposed to know we were hosting anyone. Grant was the guy who borrowed our hedge trimmer 3 months ago and still hadn't returned it. The same guy who once sent my wife a meme at 2 a.m. and called it an accident. The guy she swore was just being friendly. I stood there. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Then the door opened. Not all the way. Just enough for a bare shoulder to be visible. Her shoulder. She was fixing her hair. She didn't see me. Neither did he. He walked out behind her, laughing at something she'd said. His fly still unzipped. They both turned toward the hallway leading to the backyard. I moved fast, not toward them. I moved into the bathroom and locked the door. And that's where I stood. Ice still in my hands. Melting, water dripping down my wrist, the plastic bag fogging. I stared at myself in the mirror for almost a minute before I realized I was grinning. Not because I was okay, because something in me just snapped, quietly but permanently. I wasn't going back out there the same. I didn't come out for 11 minutes. That's not a guess. I watched the second hand on the bathroom clock twitch its way around again and again. 11 full rotations while water from the half-melted ice bag soaked through my shirt and dripped onto the floor in slow, humiliating plops. I didn't wipe it. I didn't even move. I just stood there staring at the mirror, not recognizing the guy looking back at me. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger comes with fire. I felt more like steam. Silent, hot, invisible until you're scalded. They were outside again by then. I heard the sliding door open and close. Voices picked up. The sound of beer bottles clinking, lawn chairs scraping concrete. She was laughing with someone again, probably pretending nothing happened. Maybe she thought I'd stayed out back, refilling propane, getting high fives for being such a good host. Maybe she hoped I never came inside at all. But I did. And now I knew something I wasn't meant to. The first time I walked through that hallway, I was just a man looking for ice. The second time, I was a man looking for answers. I opened the bathroom door slowly, quietly. I didn't want to talk to her. Not yet. I didn't want to look at her either. I wanted proof, something physical, something undeniable, because a part of me, as pathetic as it sounds, still wanted to believe I was wrong. I walked past the kitchen, glancing toward the backyard through the blinds. She was there, holding a red cup, smiling at her sister. No sign of him. Grant must have left the way he always arrives, unannounced and unnoticed. But her phone was on the counter, unlocked. I never check her phone. Not once in 8 years. Not because I trust blindly, because I fear completely. But that day, I was already bleeding. What was a little more pain? I didn't go to her texts. I went to the photo app, recently deleted. There were 4 images, blurry, dim, all taken indoors. One showed a plate of food on the edge of our guest bed. Another was a photo of someone's hand gripping what looked like a throw pillow. The third, I can barely write this, was a mirror selfie, her in that blue summer dress, the one with the tie behind the neck except the tie was undone. The phone was in one hand. The other was resting on someone's chest. His chest. His wedding ring visible on his finger. It wasn't mine. The fourth image was just blackness, probably taken by accident. But when I brightened the screen and looked closely, I could make out two things: the hem of her dress and his belt on the floor. I backed away from the counter like I'd touched fire. She didn't delete the photos because she was guilty. She deleted them because she thought no one would ever find them. And me, I was still holding a wet bag of ice like a clueless fool. So, I did the only thing I could think to do. I walked back out with the ice. I smiled. I dumped it in the cooler like nothing had happened. She looked at me briefly and said, "You okay? You were gone a while." I looked at her eyes, those same eyes that blinked at me on our wedding day like I was the safest place in the world. I said, "Yeah, I'm good." Then I added, "Ran into Grant. He was just leaving." I swear to God, her pupils twitched. Not her whole face. Not even her jaw. Just that one quick flick of her eyes, like a muscle she forgot to control. I saw it. She covered fast, took a sip from her cup, said, "Oh, I didn't even know he stopped by." I nodded. "Yeah, weird, huh?" She laughed and turned away. And I stood there, in the smoke of sizzling meat, in the middle of people laughing and telling lake stories, with a heart that had gone completely quiet. Not broken, just mute. And inside that silence, something was forming. Plan, a confrontation. Not yet. First, I needed to know how long it had been going on and what else she was hiding. I waited until after everyone had gone, until the last folding chair was stacked, until the leftover corn on the cob had been scraped into a trash bag, and her father's half-empty beer was left sweating on the porch railing. I waited until she was brushing her teeth, humming something that made my stomach turn. Not because of the tune, but because she sounded so light, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just hidden a man in our house during a barbecue she asked me to host. She asked me to do the grilling. She asked me to keep things flowing. She asked me to be helpful, attentive, invisible. And I did it. I always do. But not this time. That night, I sat on the floor in the guest room, the very one she'd used like a cheap motel room while her family ate ribs 20 feet away. I stared at the carpet trying to see what had changed. Would it smell like him if I leaned close enough? Could I still feel the warmth of the betrayal if I put my hand on the bed frame? And then I remembered something stupid, something that felt irrelevant until it didn't. Dina never clears the browser history on her tablet. Not because she's careless, because she doesn't think she needs to. She assumes I'll never go near it. And until that night, she was right. I pulled it from her nightstand drawer while she showered. The screen lit up with her floral background. That same ridiculous selfie she took with me years ago at a pumpkin patch. I wanted to punch the screen. I opened Safari. I didn't even need to scroll. The last tab wasn't closed. It was still open. How to keep an affair hidden in a shared house. Asking for a friend. Oh. I nearly dropped the tablet. My heart hit a rhythm it hadn't found since college. It wasn't just real. It wasn't just physical. It was premeditated, researched, carefully executed. She hadn't stumbled into something. She had planned to betray me and looked good doing it. I kept reading. She hadn't posted, just browsed. Comment after comment of people sharing tips like it was some twisted game. Use separate phones. Only meet during errands. Have a backup excuse for every room. Every room. Every room. The guest room, the laundry room, even the garage. Suddenly, a memory snapped into my head. 3 weeks ago, I came home early from work. Her car was in the driveway. She wasn't in the kitchen. I called for her. No answer. A few minutes later, she came from the garage holding a bag of dog food. We don't have a dog. Back then I laughed. Thought she was being sweet, buying food for the neighbor's new puppy. Now I felt sick. I went into the garage quietly. She was still in the bathroom, blow-drying her hair. I stood there, surrounded by tools I never use and boxes I never labeled, and just stared. Then I saw it. A small blanket, folded oddly behind the water heater. Not rolled, stuffed. Why would anyone keep a blanket there? I pulled it out. It reeked of cologne. Not mine. Something sharp, spicy, and arrogant, embedded in the fibers like a ghost. And then I found the second thing. A receipt crumpled from a gas station 20 minutes out. 2 Gatorades. A box of condoms. A lighter. The date. 2 days ago. The same day she told me she had a terrible migraine and spent the afternoon in bed while I worked late covering a colleague's class. So now I knew. This wasn't a slip. This wasn't one drunken mistake behind a closed door. This was a fully orchestrated performance. And I was the only one without a script. And still, I hadn't said a word. Not because I didn't care. Because I didn't know how to speak without screaming. Because if I opened my mouth, I might never stop. So instead, I returned everything exactly as I found it. I washed the blanket with cologne down with bleach. I snapped a photo of the receipt and sent it to my email. I closed the tablet and put it back where it was. And when she came into the bedroom wearing those silky pajama shorts she knows I like, smiling, humming, pretending to be the woman I married, I rolled over and pretended to be asleep. But sleep wasn't coming. Because now I had questions. Not just about her, about myself. Who was I really married to? And more importantly, who would I become by staying? She started waking up earlier. It was subtle at first. A few minutes here, 10 minutes there. I used to be the one who made coffee before work. Set the mugs out like some predictable sitcom husband. She used to wander in half asleep, yawning, hair tied up with a pencil, mumbling about deadlines and sore feet. But now, she was already dressed when I walked into the kitchen. Mascara on, lip gloss, perfume. She said she had meetings, claimed she was part of some new project at work, but she works remotely. Her office is down the hall, and I hadn't seen her on a single Zoom call in weeks. So I started watching. Not obsessively at first. I'd noticed things. How she'd take phone calls outside, whispering behind the shed where the Wi-Fi barely reached. How she'd come home from grocery runs with bags half full and cheeks flushed like she just won something. I began tracking her timelines, her routes, even her gas mileage. She used to fill the tank once a month. Now it was once every 5 days. I installed a dash cam. She never noticed. She thought I was still asleep in the mornings. Thought I was the same slow-moving, gentle pushover who avoided conflict like a disease. And maybe I was. But I was also someone who'd been burned so deeply that silence had become my only weapon. The footage came back 2 days later. I skipped through hours of nothing, of traffic and parked cars and gas stations. But at 8:17 a.m., something appeared. A silver SUV parked 3 rows over in an abandoned outlet mall lot. My wife's car pulled up beside it. She didn't get out right away. He did. Grant. Baseball cap, hoodie like a teenager sneaking out. He leaned on her window, then got in the passenger seat. The car didn't move for 36 minutes. I don't know what hurt more. What they probably did in that car, or the fact that she didn't even flinch when he kissed her goodbye outside of it. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't scared. She was used to it. That afternoon, I pretended to forget to take out the trash. Dina made a passive-aggressive comment about how we need a routine again. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my body didn't know how else to react. She didn't look at me when she said it. She scrolled on her phone, thumb moving rhythmically, like she wasn't sitting across from someone who just watched her cheat. Later that night, while she showered, I opened her email. I'd never touched her email before, but I knew the password. She used her mother's birthday for everything. There wasn't much. She was careful. But tucked inside the trash folder was something she deleted hours earlier. A message with no subject, no greeting, just a hotel name, a room number, and a check-in time. That's it. I stared at it for 5 full minutes. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't feel anything but stillness. The kind of stillness people talk about before tornadoes. The next morning, I called out sick. She didn't ask why. Just kissed me on the forehead like I was a puppy who wouldn't understand her words anyway. Then she left, hair curled, heels on, jacket too thin for the weather. I waited exactly 40 minutes. Then I followed her. I took my old car, the one she hates because the air doesn't work. I stayed 4 cars behind, watched her take the back road, the one that avoids downtown. She didn't go to work. She went straight to the hotel. It was a mid-tier chain. Nothing special, but the kind of place with thick curtains and easy check-in kiosks. I parked across the street behind a dry cleaner's van and waited. She walked in like she'd done it 100 times. She didn't even pause at the door, didn't look over her shoulder. And that was the moment. That was the second I realized something deeper, something far worse than just betrayal. She didn't feel guilty anymore, not even a little. She was done hiding. She'd already moved on. I was just the part she hadn't figured out how to remove yet. I didn't follow her inside. That would have been too obvious. And besides, I didn't need to. I'd already seen enough. Her walking into that hotel, brushing hair from her face like it was just another casual appointment, was confirmation. I stayed in the car watching the entrance, checking the time. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I don't even remember breathing. At minute 32, something unexpected happened. Someone knocked on my window. I nearly jumped out of my skin. My first thought was that she had spotted me somehow, that she was dragging me in her lie now, ready to twist things, call it paranoia. But it wasn't her. It was a man. Late 50s maybe. Beard, glasses, a jacket with a mechanic's patch. He looked nervous. "Hey," he said, looking around quickly. "You watching the woman that just went inside?" I blinked. My throat locked up. "Why?" "Because you're not the first." My door creaked as I opened it, stepping out slowly, unsure if I was about to get mugged or dragged into some psycho story. But then he said next, "She's been coming here 3 times a week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Same time. Always meets the same guy. Tall, brown hair, bit of a limp. Noticed it when he stepped out of her car once. He drives a black Dodge with a cracked left taillight." I stood there, stunned. You saw them?" He nodded. "I work across the street. Barlow's garage. I eat lunch in my truck most days. She parks in that same corner spot every time." He glanced back at the hotel. "I'm sorry, man. I wasn't trying to get in your business. Just figured maybe you weren't here by accident." I swallowed. My voice barely worked. "No, I wasn't." He handed me a business card. "If you want security footage from the street, I've got some." Motion triggered. Doesn't show inside the hotel, but it'll show who she came with. License plates and all. I already saved a few files. Didn't know who to give them to. I took the card like it was radioactive. My hand was trembling. I didn't even realize it until he looked at me with sympathy. Not pity. Sympathy burns worse. When he left, I sat back down, not moving for another 10 minutes. My wife wasn't just cheating. She wasn't just careless. She was comfortable. Comfortable enough to make a schedule. Comfortable enough that other people had started noticing her patterns before I did. What did that say about me? What kind of man doesn't see his wife slipping away in broad daylight? I waited until she left the hotel. 47 minutes later, Grant walked out 2 steps ahead of her, wearing sunglasses and a smirk. He didn't kiss her, didn't even touch her. It made it worse. They were past that now. Past the puppy love phase. This was just routine, mechanical, like brushing your teeth. She followed him to the parking lot. They didn't say much. She got in her car. He drove off first. She sat behind the wheel, checking herself in the mirror, fixing her lip gloss. Then she exhaled slowly, like she was relieved. Then she called me. My phone buzzed in my lap. I stared at it, stunned. Her name right there, cheerful as ever. I answered after the 3rd ring. "Hey babe," she said. Her voice was relaxed. "Just finished my meeting. Traffic's terrible, but I'll be home in like 30. I looked at her car across the street. I could still see her adjusting her seatbelt. "Okay," I said flatly. "Drive safe." She laughed, like my tone was some quirky inside joke. "You sound like my dad." I said nothing. She hung up. That night I didn't eat dinner. I told her I wasn't feeling well. She offered to make soup. I said I already had something earlier. She didn't push. She just kissed my cheek and disappeared into the bedroom, scrolling TikTok like a woman with no secrets. But I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was staring at the business card in my hand. Because tomorrow I was going to that garage. And I wasn't coming back empty-handed. The garage didn't look like much from the outside. Just a squat brick building with peeling paint and a dented vending machine out front that probably hadn't worked since Obama's first term. The sign above the entrance read, "Barlow's Auto and Detail." And even though I had the card in my pocket, my legs still hesitated as I stepped up to the door. What kind of husband walks into a mechanic's shop to get proof that his wife is sleeping with someone else? Apparently, me. Inside, it smelled like oil, burnt rubber, and coffee that had been reheated too many times. Behind the counter stood the same man from yesterday. Beard, glasses, and a look in his eyes that said he knew I didn't want to be here. "You came," he said simply, setting down a wrench. "Follow me." No small talk. No need for it. He led me through a narrow hallway into a back office that doubled as a break room. A mini fridge hummed beside a desk covered in paper towels and computer parts. He pulled up a window on an old monitor and typed something into a security feed program. "Pulled this mornings for you," he said. "And last Thursdays and last Saturdays. It ain't Hollywood quality, but you'll see enough." He clicked play. The first video showed her car pulling in just like he said. Timestamp: 8:14 a.m. The silver sedan crept along the edge of the lot, turned sharply, and reversed neatly into the same corner spot. 2 minutes later, the black Dodge pulled up beside her. The man who got out wasn't nervous. He was casual. He even stopped to check his hair in the side mirror before opening her door. She laughed when he climbed in. You could see it even from that distance. The way her head tilted back, the way her hand rested on his leg before the door shut. The entire car rocked gently as they stayed parked for nearly an hour. But that wasn't the worst part. Not even close. The worst part came when they got out. She didn't look embarrassed. She didn't look scared. She looked radiant, like a woman who had gotten everything she wanted. And then, just before the camera feed cut off, he leaned in and said something in her ear that made her laugh again. And she kissed him on the cheek. Not romantically, almost playfully, like they were high school kids sneaking behind the bleachers. I felt the breath leave my body like I'd been punched in the stomach. "She's been doing this for a while," the man beside me said. "I didn't know it was your wife at first, but it's always the same guy, same car, same look on her face when she leaves." I didn't respond. I was watching another clip now. Different day, same routine. She brought coffee that time. 2 cups, 1 in each hand. She handed him one through the window before getting in. "She ever look that happy with you?" he asked gently. The question caught me off guard. And the answer was simple. Not in years. When I finally stepped outside, the sky was overcast, and the air felt heavier. Not storm-heavy, just pressing, like the atmosphere was reminding me I was still here, still in this body, still in this reality that had been quietly reshaping itself behind my back. I didn't drive home right away. I went to the river instead, parked under the shade of an old oak tree, and stared out at the water for what felt like hours. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't talk to myself or rehearse some big confrontation speech. I just sat there, letting the weight of it all settle in. The woman I shared a bed with was in love with someone else. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't hiding. She didn't fear being caught because, deep down, she knew I wouldn't stop her. She knew me too well. And maybe that was the most humiliating part of all. When I finally got back to the house, her car was gone. I went inside. The house smelled like candles and air freshener, like she tried to make it feel like a home, but it didn't. It felt like a memory of something that had already ended. There was a sticky note on the fridge. "Went to Target. Text if you need anything. Red heart." I stared at that stupid heart like it was a knife. She was out buying throw pillows and scented soap while I was collecting surveillance footage of her affair. And that's when something inside me finally shifted. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. But I wasn't going to pretend anymore either. The next move was mine. And she wouldn't see it coming. It started with the drawer. Not the sock drawer. Not the nightstand where I knew she'd hidden things before. This was the little one in the hallway console where we usually kept spare batteries, dried-out pens, and coupons that expired months ago. A place no one really looked twice at. But I remembered something odd. 2 weeks ago, I saw her shoving something inside it while pretending to tidy up before her mom came over. She said she was rushing to clear the counter. I let it go. But now, I pulled it open with steady hands and a stomach made of knots. There it was. Prepaid phone. Cheap. Black. Still with the store sticker on the back. She thought I'd never find it. Probably only used it when she was away. Probably called it her backup. I didn't hesitate. I turned it on. There were no saved contacts. But the messages were still there. "Grant. Same room tomorrow? You want me to bring the thing again? Dina. Yeah. And maybe keep your mouth quieter this time." Smirking face Grant. "No promises. You make me lose control. Dina. Poor baby. Let's see what happens if I show up without anything on underneath." There were pictures, too. Not graphic, just suggestive. The kind that would never make it to court but could still destroy someone emotionally in 2 seconds flat. Her in a towel, her in his hoodie. Her with her middle finger up and the words, "Be jealous," written on her palm in red marker. She had a whole other life. And it wasn't just physical. It was personal, teasing, confident. A woman who didn't think twice about what it would do to me. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't smash it. I slid it right back into the drawer and closed it softly, like nothing ever happened. Because that's what she expected me to do. Burn hot, crash fast, break things, confront, and leave. And I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of being predictable. Instead, I wrote her a note. Not the "I know everything" kind. Not a threat. Not some sad, dramatic monologue. Just a message that would slice deep enough to stay with her for the rest of her life. I took one of our nice linen cards from the kitchen drawer, the one she always bought but never used because we don't really send cards anymore. And I wrote, "I hope he makes you feel whole. I hope he listens when you speak and looks at you like I used to. I hope you don't forget the sound of the silence you left behind." That's all. No name, no signature. I left it on her pillow and walked out of the house with my keys, my wallet, and the clothes on my back. I didn't have a plan. No suitcase, no bag. Just an idea. Disappear quietly enough and let her wonder when the noise will come. I stayed at a roadside motel, one of those places with neon signs and thick curtains that don't close all the way. I laid on the bed fully dressed and stared at the ceiling until morning. My phone buzzed 6 times. For calls, 2 texts. "Hey, where are you? Dina, I'm freaking out. Please answer." That was the first time she used my name in a text in months. I didn't reply. The next day, I went to my cousin's cabin 2 towns over. He's never home. And I knew the spare key was still duct-taped under the barbecue pit. I made coffee, sat by the old wood-burning stove, and started writing a list. Not of things to do, a list of questions. 1. When did I stop being enough for her? 2. Was it something I missed or something she buried? 3. If she ever begs for forgiveness, will she mean it or just hate being alone? 4. Am I brave enough to walk away without watching her break down first? By the 3rd cup of coffee, I realized something terrifying. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to ruin her life. I just wanted mine back. But there was one thing I needed before I made any final move. I needed to see her reaction to that card. Because if she cried, maybe there was a version of this where she still had a heart. But if she didn't, then I'd know. And I wouldn't just leave quietly. I'd leave completely. She didn't call the next day or the one after. I imagined 100 versions of what she might be doing. Ripping the house apart looking for the burner phone, crying into her pillow, or maybe not crying at all. Maybe just deleting photos, changing sheets, making new memories with someone else. But for once, none of that mattered because something had shifted in me. I wasn't drowning anymore. I wasn't holding my breath, hoping she'd choose me. I was watching the water from the shore, wondering why I ever thought I needed to be in it. I spent 4 days alone in that cabin. No TV, no internet, just my thoughts, firewood, and a blank notebook. I didn't write about her. I wrote about me, the version of me I hadn't seen in years. The kid who used to bike through the rain just for fun. The guy who once took a midnight train to nowhere just because he could. The man who used to dream of owning a bookstore by the coast. Somewhere quiet, somewhere warm. On the 5th day, I heard a car. I looked through the curtain. It was her. She stepped out slowly, clutching the card I'd left behind like it was some ancient artifact. Her eyes were puffy, her hair messy, no makeup. Not the polished version of her that Grant knew. Just Dina, the one I fell in love with once. She didn't knock at first. She just stood there on the porch like she wasn't sure if she should even be there. Then a quiet knock. I opened the door. We didn't speak right away. She looked at me like she was seeing something unfamiliar. Maybe because I wasn't standing small anymore. I wasn't shrinking for her comfort. I was just standing. She handed me the card. Her hand trembled. "I read it 100 times, she whispered. And every time, it felt heavier. I didn't take it. I didn't need to. "Why'd you come?" I asked. She looked down, then back at me, eyes full of tears that weren't performative. Real, raw. "Because I'm sorry. Because I thought I could have everything and keep you, too. Because I didn't think you'd ever actually walk away." "You were right," I said. "Until now." She nodded. "I know I don't deserve a second chance. I don't even know if I'd take me back. But I came here to say I finally see what I've done. And I wanted you to know. I don't want anything from you. Not even forgiveness. Just the truth. I studied her. It wasn't an act. Not this time. But I didn't tell her it was okay. I didn't comfort her. I simply said what I knew was real. I don't hate you, I told her. But I'm not coming home. That crushed her. She looked like the floor might vanish under her feet. But I wasn't cruel. I reached out and touched her hand. Not with love, not with longing, but with peace. I'm going to be okay, I said. And one day you will be too, she cried. I didn't. She left the porch with something broken, but something else starting to heal. And I stayed not out of pain but because for the first time in years I chose me. 2 weeks later, I found a cottage rental near the coast. Not a bookstore yet, but the beach is close. I wake up early, read paperbacks, brew my own coffee, and smile at strangers I don't know explanations to. Some nights I still feel the echo of everything I lost, but most mornings I wake up without flinching. And that, I've learned, is what healing really looks like.